Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, I'm as guilty as the next person on this channel of only going for the very top end models in a range, your M cars, your supercars and so on, that I always sometimes overlook the most popular model in the range, the one that everybody buys. So welcome to the BMW 118i M Sport. Now, let's start our look at the 118i by looking at the design. As I've already mentioned, this is an M Sport, so you get slightly more sporty, aggressive looks. So you've got this more angular front bumper down here with these really nice gloss black side blades. This particular car is pretty much as basic as you can get. So this gives you a good example of what you get from standard. So you get these lovely alloy wheels down here, and the grille at the front is chrome, and as you can see, it's not massive like it is on a lot of modern BMWs. I think the 1 Series is aging beautifully. It was a little bit controversial when it first came out, as pretty much every new BMW is, but also, like pretty much every new BMW, it doesn't take long for people to start to really appreciate what it is, and for me, this is a pretty spot-on car. You've got the really lovely LED lights down here with the Corona rings inside. As you move along the sides, it's actually quite a simplistic design. You've got the swage lines which run all the way through the doors here. Door handles, normal door handles, not the flush ones that there is now on a lot of modern BMWs. You get electronically folding mirrors as standard, and 4 big doors. It's plenty practical, unlike the previous shape 1 Series that was available as a 3-door and a 5-door. This shape is only available as this 5-door. It is round the rear that I think probably the biggest changes have happened with this generation of 1 Series, and that's because this has now gone from being a rear-wheel drive platform in the previous generation to a front-wheel drive platform, which means that it's a slightly different shape all round. But before we touch on boot space, let me talk around some of the design details. You've got these really lovely wraparound LED rear lights which give the back of the car a really nice sporty stance. You've got this lovely gloss black diffuser down here, single tailpipe on this particular car. On the likes of the 135i and the 128Ti, you have twin pipes to give it a little bit more of a sporty edge. But I think it's actually a really good looking car, especially if you spec this thing with the M Sport Pro package, which gives you a rear wing here and slightly different design, bigger wheels and a few more bits. But let's touch on the boot space. Now, you can get an electronically folding tailgate on this generation of 1 Series. This one hasn't got it, but it is now optional for the first time ever. There is absolutely loads of space in here. As you can probably see, I've got my camera gear in here, but there's still absolutely loads of space in here. The opening is really wide and useful. It's not too high, so you don't have to worry about picking things up really high and getting them in. And then when you drop the rear seats, it becomes pretty much a van. There's acres of room in here for pretty much everything you're ever gonna need. And as I say, that is the benefit of this car turning to a front-wheel drive platform. And I know everybody was like, oh, it's a BMW, it can't go to front-wheel drive, but realistically, and as we'll touch on later, to drive this thing still feels fantastic, but realistically, you need more space in these cars, and that's exactly what BMW have done with this generation of 1 Series. Now, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, the benefit of having this now as a front-wheel drive platform means that there's now far more space in here. I actually owned the previous generation in a 5-door and a 3-door, and in the back of that car there wasn't anywhere near as much space as there is in this one. I've deliberately put this seat as far back as it will go, and I still have room for my knees. There is plenty of space in here for 2 large adults, 3 at a push, and it is really lovely in here with this sort of split leather and fabric effect. There's loads of headroom. The windows are nice and large so you don't feel claustrophobic. There is some 2 charging points down here, USB-C charging ports. There are some vents down here as well for air conditioning. And it is just a really useful back bench. It's a really great place to sit. And you don't feel claustrophobic, you don't feel squashed in. You could do a long distance journey back here. But really, I'm going to jump one seat forward and let's have a look at that interior. In here, the driver's seat in the front of the car is where I think BMW really stepped the game on with the 118i and this generation of 1 Series. You have the newly designed steering wheel, which we've now become accustomed to on pretty much every new BMW, and the overall design is just, I think, spot on. If you've had any BMW in the past, you'll know exactly where everything is. The layout is pretty much spot on. Everything is where it needs to be, everything works just as it should, and it's got a really nice level of standard equipment. You've got the lovely driver's display directly in front of you, which is really crisp and modern. It's slightly different to before. There's no dials now. They're almost like these little triangular elements either side. I actually really like it. In the center, you've got the large infotainment screen, which can be controlled both via the iDrive controller in the center and also by touchscreen. You get wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which, let's be honest, is probably what most people are going to use. But the standard BMW system is also incredibly good. There is dual zone climate control, heated seats, all the driver aids you're ever going to need as well. And I really like in the M Sport that you get this blue stitching and the blue elements throughout the seats. The seats are super comfortable with really nice support for your back and into your lumbar. And it's just a really high quality place to sit. Everything feels really quite expensive and premium. It is a fantastic place to sit and spend time. So what is a front wheel drive BMW like to drive? Well, let's start by talking about some of the stats. The 118i uses a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine producing around 136 horsepower, which means 0 to 62 is dealt with in around 8.9 seconds, which isn't going to set your hair on fire, but it's not exactly slow either. The engine's got a nice little rasp to it. It feels like a really eager engine to get up and please you. It's got plenty of poke. It's got plenty of power. It just feels eager. It feels like it's always ready to go whenever you want it to. It bristles with excitement whenever you go near the throttle. And it feels quite pokey. But of course, you want to know if this car's suffered from turning to a front-wheel drive car, and I'm here to say I don't think it has. If anything, it's added a bit of character to it. I actually think it's just as good, if not even better, than the previous generation, the rear-wheel drive one, because now it's just more accessible, especially in this country, in the UK, when we have some really bad days and really terrible wet and windy and snowy days. It's now actually just more usable. I think it feels like a BMW still. That's the biggest compliment I think I can give it. It still feels like a BMW to drive. And a lot of people, when they announce that they're going to be doing a front wheel drive, for me, the most important thing was that this still felt like a BMW to drive. And I'm happy to say it does. They've kept a lot of the character that made BMW drive the way they did. The steering feel still feels inherently BMW. It's got a lovely weight to it, a really nice precision as well. You can really start to feel what's underneath your fingertips. You can tell exactly what road surface you're on. It doesn't feel like you're disconnected from the steering. You feel connected to it. You feel a part of it, just like you do in pretty much all other BMWs. The suspension does a really good job of dealing with the horrendous roads that we have here in the UK. It deals with potholes and bumps in the road and undulations with a real composure and a real, just almost grown-up feel in a way. It feels like a really well put together premium product, and you'd kind of expect that from BMW, and they have not missed the mark with this. Pretty much the entry-level BMW, the 118i, still feels just like a BMW should. I think it's a great way to get into the brand, and this I think is a fantastic all-round little car. I've got to overtake a little cyclist here now. Yeah, it's got all the poke you're ever going to need. As I say, it's not going to rip your face off and set your hair on fire, no. But that's not what this car's for. This car is just a really lovely high-end premium hatchback. It's now got more space than ever. I think it's still an incredibly attractive proposition, this car. It feels fantastic on the road. I still think it looks great. For me, I would spec it with an M Sport Pro pack just to get your black grills and your bigger wheels and so on, just to make it look even more sporty. But for me, I will be honest, I've owned a few of these. I've had 135i's and so on in the past, and I think they're fantastic, and I miss mine. They do have a bit of a character to them, and you do start to love them. And I think BMW has done a great job with this entry-level 118i. This is all the car you're ever going to need. And if you want any more information on the 118i M Sport, or any BMW for that matter, please use the link in the description of this video to contact your nearest Sytner BMW retailer. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel for plenty more content to come, and I will see you guys again really soon.